Oh, it's Tiffany. It's good bump music.
Will I play something else?
That's fine. Yeah.
The many sides of Chris Wabich.
There's a few.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just getting my, shit together as it is, and I can say that because I'm talking to Chris Wabich. I can say anything when Chris Wabich is on.
I'm always getting my shit together. No big deal.
So we are, yeah. So I'm really happy to have Chris on today. He's a great drummer and a great person, and I think we need to keep talking to great people and great drummers, of which Chris is an LA guy too.
Yeah, the not great drummers, they tend to like ruin the night of music. We know this. And I learned that better when I stopped playing. I learned that better when I was good enough on steel drum to be a leader and play in the front and have some drummer ruin me.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, yeah, a good drummer is really important. Don't ruin who's in front.
Oh, man.
Right? It's like,
I've definitely had experiences with bad drummers, and it's very annoying.
It's a lot to put up with. What would you qualify as a bad drummer? Let's talk about that. What would you say is?
Well, there's several things. Of course, time, is bad.
Oh, yeah.
Bad time would make a terrible drummer, but also, really and truly, for a singer, I think, are they listening to me as part of the band? Are they listening to everybody, but also me? Because I've actually had drummers who aren't listening to me, and they don't care. They're just playing whatever they play, and it's a little distracting, to say the least.
Yes, sensitive topic, but I replaced very, very famous drummer on this album last year, and it's because it was a singer's album, and the way he was playing, he's just playing how he plays, right? And it just sounded great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it was just they were looking for this magic mojo, whatever the hell. And the track was already done. They just like, can you fix this? And I was going, no problem, man. I was like, they couldn't identify what was the deal, And I was like, well, just there's so much crap happening on the snare drum. That's right where the voice is, and your enunciation and all your, that's where it all is. Just don't play anything on the snare. You can play whatever you want up top, no problem. Be as busy, as happy as you want. But it's also a register timbre thing, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of just played what he played, but no snare. And they're like, perfect. I was like,
oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I learned something new.
Yeah.
One time I was in the studio at Dori Amarillo's studio, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
had hired a band for a project that I was producing, and I had seen the drummer play with a famous jazz person, and he slaughtered it. I mean, in a good way. He was great. So I thought, okay, this guy, I'll hire this guy for this project because it was right up his alley, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he was terrible. And
Mm.
I was so flummoxed. And Dory just said to me, there's some people who don't do well in the studio. Live, great, but they don't do well in the studio. That was definitely a guy who didn't do well in the studio. Have you had experience with that kind of thing too?
Well, I've had all kinds of experience in the studio. I mean, like, I've done well and I've done really poorly. It depends on who you're with and what the project is and what the expectations are. And usually it's if there's some unrealistic expectation where it's not really, they're trying to put you into something that's not you.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've learned to, like, if it's really beyond my wheelhouse, I will say, I got a friend who's really good at this. You should call. And we're talking before the show about dudes, and I was like, I've sent him on stuff. I'm gonna send you quickly
we're talking about Brad Dudes. Yeah.
I just emailed you a thing with more videos, and
cool.
If you want to play other music, it's compilation stuff. Okay, so yeah, talking about Brad Dudes. I mean, there's a couple of things where I got called. They said, "Can you play some tabla?" And I'm like, "But it's a jazz thing," and I'm like, I know tabla guys and I know jazz people, but neither one of them are me. Wait, you like the real deal tabla thing, like as like a Hussein thing, or what do you want? Send me the track, and then they'll go, okay. I said, yeah, call Brad, because Brad's God, his benefit to society is that he understands certain ethnic things, and he also has his own thing, like a strong own thing,
Yeah.
So he can have one hand in one country and one hand in the other country, and then improvise his own way. It's like, it's a lot to check out, It's very cool.
It's so cool when you come across anybody, I'm sure, but for us musicians who are so they pull it all together, but they have independency. Dave Mackay was like that, a piano player. He was like that. His right and left hand, they were totally different people, man. And he just so beautiful about it,
Yeah. There's just so many amazing ways to put it all together, and I was like thinking about this other thing too. My buddy Quinn Johnson just put out an album 2 days ago, right? And it's like a COVID project. He basically assigned 2 tracks to all of his friends, and so I'm on 2, and Joel Taylor's on, Kevin Winard, Tom Breckline.
Oh, cool.
And then it's Axt is on bass, Edwin. I did 2 track with Trey. So it's cool. It's like all my friends and stuff, and hearing all that stuff. And I was listening to the other tracks going, in your brain, you go, okay, well, first of all, he posted, I didn't know. And Winard hit me up and he goes, which track is you? I think it's this track. And I go, what? Oh, it's up. And so I go, okay, I'm going to listen and see if I can guess who it is. So I picked his tracks out right away. And then I picked one Breckline, and I got confused with Joel and Breckline because it was one that was like a ballad with brushes. It's like hard to tell.
Yeah.
But in your brain, you're like, okay, I'm going to go back and listen to those as if I was Quinn and go, why did you assign that guy that thing and this guy this thing, And I think it's cast very well that way. I listened to the other tracks that Tommy played, and I'm like, It's cool. If I played it, I would probably be too subtle. I would probably just be a little bit too conversational, contrapuntal. And he just like puts it like, nope, this is it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that sent me down the rabbit hole of like, okay, when someone gives me a session, what do I do first? And I'm not a commercial session drummer. I don't do jingles and whatever. You know, I've done stuff like that, but it's always a little fringy.
Yeah, yeah.
We need an ethnic flavor or blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So if someone called me to do the studio thing and it was a standard session, I would think they're nuts. Right? Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, if somebody asked me, hey, I got this thing, what do you think? I would say, whoa, my first thought when someone gives me a session or asks me to do something is I want to make it completely different than anything you've heard. And for that reason, my whole bag of tricks and my reserve of studio Steve Gadd stuff or whatever is like, it's pretty deep. I could play you that thing, but is it appropriate for your song? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I want to listen to everything and treat it as its own organism. And so I don't think that's good for a studio. If the clock's ticking and they go, we got to get this thing out of here. You know, I could just play you something, but I wouldn't feel good about it.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, like with Quinn's thing, it took me a minute because he sent me this like thing in 5/4 with offbeats, and it was really gorgeous song. And I was like, okay, I can't fuck this up. It's gotta be special, you know? And he said, yeah, I need your like contrapuntal, you know, he's like, the thing you do, you know? And it's like, okay. So, okay. And so I just kind of sat with it and I didn't read the chart. I was like, I read the chart for a minute and I go, you got to just memorize this and play it like it's a tune you've played together, you know, for years. That's more special than reading it going, I caught everything, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. That you brought another point to me too about, you asked me what I don't like about drummers. And well, it's such a big question, you know, but generally speaking, if I have a gig, a fun gig that I want, I do not want a drummer who's very straight. I want a drummer like you, or Mark Ferber, or, you know, somebody who has all these colors and what you just described, creative.
Some range, yeah.
Yeah, that's what turns me on for a drummer. Space, you know, not the same old tick, tick, tick. But of course, there are moments when time is great, but that's in a certain kind of a moment, you know, or a certain kind of a song, and that's cool too. I remember one time I played with, I will not remember his name. He was a pretty well-known rock drummer here in town. It was many years ago, and he played very simple on the jazz gig. It was not anything like what I just described, but his time was so perfect that I was absolutely in heaven. It just went right inside me, and I was totally fine with that. You know,
yeah.
He was overplaying, but his time, oh, wow, that was, yeah. And so that's cool. I mean, of course, it's different situations, you know, but I do prefer somebody with space and looseness and creativity, and apparently what Mon calls you, the man with 3 arms.
What's up, Mon? Yeah. Well, that's funny. I just ran into somebody. Okay, so this, you know, live shows are picking up little by little, and I played this place the other day, and a bunch of friends came. I don't invite people to my gigs because right now you don't want to gather and whatever, right? So the guys who just found out about it and showed up surprised me, and it was really nice. And one of them was a couple, Herbert and his wife, and we did the Zappa show together back in the day. That's how I know him. So he came, and he was at our show at the World Stage.
Wow.
So Ahmet was playing bass, and he goes, "Is that the guy I saw down in you know, Lemire Park, right?" And I said, "Oh yeah, that's him." And they were trying to remember that stuff, and they were going, "I love those guys. That was a cool gig," you know. Like he had never been to the World Stage. He only came because I was playing there.
Cool.
So that's a good experience, you know. And I just have to say something about the world stage really quickly, as long as
Absolutely.
we're on that.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, when the Whale closed, was putting up pages and pages and pages of how LA will never be the same, and how that place changes the face of jazz history. And I'm going, true, the baked potato's still there. True, the world stage is there. True, look who is on tour right now and who's a big name. They all cultivated in the world stage. So it's kind of like the more people propped up the Whale and said, it's the greatest thing ever, it just changed the face of history, jazz, LA will never be the same. I go, you just insulted the crap out of a lot of good places where a lot of good music has happened. Does that mean that your music just doesn't exist outside the Whale? Or is that one of those they call, you know, virtue signaling posts where, well, I play at the Whale a lot, so, and it was the greatest thing ever. See what I'm saying? It's a little fucked up. So no skin off of the Whale, of course. The Whale is an amazing place, and it deserves every good word you could possibly say. I was just a little ticked that people left out the places that are still there and that are important, including world stage.
Yeah.
And world stage should have much more attention, because freaking Billy Higgins, come on, man. What can you say? Billy Higgins started, and that's a mensch move, man. You know, as a mentor and just a guy who's a great player and who lived the history of jazz, to say I'm going to start a place for and cultivate and help people. It's like, damn, beautiful, right?
Yeah, the world stage, amazing, and Billy Higgins, amazing. If you ever saw Billy Higgins live, you would love him because he was the most joyful player ever.
Well,
Totally enjoy and elegant and high quality. And then you're right, he went and he built the world stage, and that community kept it going. You know, that community had a need, a desire for it. They kept it going, and then people like Dwight Tribble took the reins over. You know, um, and yeah, the world stage is a really crucial part of Los Angeles history. As is the Blue Whale, of course, because the Blue Whale opened a door that wasn't really there. I think that was, you know, like the more modern music.
yeah,
And before that, it was Rocco's, but then he sold it, and that became Herb Alpert's vibrato, right? But Rocco's was at that time the only place too for more modern music. So,
yeah. For a while, Rocco had the thing over. I think it was Santa Monica Boulevard. There was like a
oh yeah,
theater,
I remember that place.
and
I
then he
saw
moved it.
Adam Levy there. Yeah.
Wow, and then he moved it to what was that place in downtown?
Did he
Where
move to the, I want to say the Metropole?
Metropole, Cafe Metropole.
Yeah, yeah. That was a cool space.
That was a very cool space, and it's still there. I mean, it's a different name now, but that restaurant is still there, and they finally fixed the building next door.
Oh.
So I don't know why. You know, it's weird. I walked down there. For people who don't know LA, it's I guess the arts district.
Mhm.
It's just east of Little Tokyo, right? So Third Street, you keep going east, and it's all there.
Yeah.
I walked down there about a week ago. You know, been trying to get out of the house once in a while and take a walk. It's hard. But I went down there, and there are no homeless, there are no tents, and there are no bums. I was
Really?
like, what happened? What's going on here? This is some NIMBY white people took this place over. This used to be like screwed up
Wow.
neighborhood. My neighborhood is tent central. It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
It's the epicenter of the homeless now for LA, not like, you know, Venice, Santa Monica, but for LA, it's very, very bad currently. And there's a huge debate about what to do about it. But then I was like, oh, damn, I'm going to walk over into where Metropole was. It's going to be bad. And there's like nobody. I'm like, crap. There's like nice restaurants and people on the street, and went and got ice cream. It's like, this seems wrong. This doesn't seem like where, you know, a high art is happening anymore. Right? It's the art district, but it's all cleaned up. You're like, oh, is it really now?
Oh gosh, well, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 67, and like I grew up in Boston, and in college I went to Berkeley there, and I mean those days there was a lot of it's like kind of like what we were talking about when I moved here and I saw the lawns, they were all manicured. It was like, what? Ooh, that felt really bad to me. So it's kind of reminiscent of what you're saying. You kind of, the old days of art districts were funky.
Yeah.
You didn't go inside to be funky. You saw the whole thing on the outside was funky. Then it got kind of commercialized. But yeah, it's
You're like Haight-Ashbury in San
yeah,
Francisco, right?
yeah, yeah.
That was hang, and then it cleaned up, and then I remember I was on tour and I had a day off, and I was like, I just want to go there, and so I walked. Man, I walked for like 8 hours in San Francisco one day. It was great. So I just wanted to make it a Haight-Ashbury, and then a friend of mine hit me up like, I was 10 minutes before I got there. So I'm going to be at Haight-Ashbury in 10 minutes, and so we met there, and it's gone down. At that time, it had gone down, so it was more funky than original. And I was like, okay, I'm getting the experience. This is cool. I didn't want to go there and have it be all cleaned up with like a Lululemon store or some bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have a few people saying hi. Roland Askerons,
Yeah, rolling with it.
Pamela Baker,
All right.
and Joyce Glasgow. Do you know Joyce?
I'm not sure.
She really stays connected to the music online. We got to hear about Zappa because Roland is a Zappa freak. He always asks me if the people I'm interviewing worked with Zappa.
Oh.
Toby Simmons, Veronica
Hey, tell me.
Bird,
Um,
Federica Palacci.
So Zappa.
Zappa.
My connection to Zappa is Roland doesn't know this. He'll be happy he tuned in. So Gail Zappa, which is Zappa's widow, she through a theater company put on a theater production of Joe's Garage, the record.
He mentioned that. I just have to tell you.
Oh, he knows. So we did, I think it was around 50 shows, and the last one we did was on Frank's birthday. That was kind of the payoff, right? And that experience was interesting. It was a growth and anti-growth experience. You know what I'm saying? First of all, that record is a pivotal record in drumming history because it's Vinnie Colaiuta playing over these kind of pop songs and just going bananas. The whole record it's really all about him.
Huh.
Every drummer always, in my era was always like, Joe's Garage, right? And so when I was in college, I mean, I knew Vinny and I knew like the GRP people, right? That label.
Yeah.
And he was one in my bag of heroes. But the Zappa thing at that time, I was resistant because I heard Joe's Garage and I heard how jokey it was. It was comical, right?
Yeah.
Here's a great drumming, but it's in this comedic thing where I was serious. So I was listening to Chick, and I was listening to Holdsworth, and I was listening to Miles Davis and things like this since I was teenager, and so at that time it was like maybe in college people were like pushing the Joe's Garage, and I was like, nah, not gonna do it, not gonna buy it to it. So I never learned that record. Whereas a lot of my drummer friends, they know it inside and out, right? So the show came up, and they asked me to do it. And a friend of mine said, "You're the perfect guy to do it because you're not married to it." And I said, okay, that's cool. I don't know what that means, but whatever. And so then I started learning this stuff. And I sort of had it together, but I sort of played it my own way. You know what I mean? It's like, and then I kind of got, the guys were like, you need to play some of the signature things from this record for the fans. They were kind of like this. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I learned a few of those things to give them a little bit more. And then the more I realized, okay, this is going to be, because then everyone started fighting about the show, how it's going to go, how it's going to produce. Is it going to be a stage thing? Is it going to be a rock thing? Whatever. And so they hired this one like outside guy to come in and talk about it. And he's like, "Drummer, you're too loud." And I was like, really? Are you serious? he just wanted to pick on drummers. That's all. Those kind of people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he was trying to tell me, like, when people have dialogue, you have to come down, like terrace dynamics. I go, that's great for a music theater or for a jazz gig or whatever. But this is a freaking rock album. It's not Barry Manilow. So I said, okay. And so for me, like, that whole show was pushing me to join the crazy. And I go, well, if I'm gonna join the crazy, I am crazy. I said, I'll just be more crazy. It's fine. So I just told the guys, I said, tell that guy to get the fuck out of here. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I started screaming, and I was like, this guy, getting the fuck out of here. He shouldn't be saying anything to me. He doesn't know anything. It's a fucking rock record. And I just went off. And I told the theater director this. And then I called Gail Zappa, and I called Joe Travers. I said, get down here. This guy's trying to make us a Barry Manilow show. And then they came down. They was in the chair like this, and they heard the band. They go, that's fine. Sounds great. Volume's fine. No problem. Be more crazy. It's fine. So the show's opened, and as people got more going, so that record is meant to be a stage production, right?
Oh.
In the line notes of the record, it says it's meant to look like a cheap high school production. Use crappy props and make it cheesy, right? So we did. So there's like a cast of 20 something on stage, and they're relying on me. And we're playing this, 19 or 21 or stuff like that. And I go, well, if I play the obvious one, is that true to anybody? So I had to make a compromise, right? I had to sort of like okay, well, they want to take the tempos faster because it's theater, right? And they're bugged if I take it the original tempo. So I got my metronome. Every time I get the same tempo, and I go, they agreed on tempo, so they couldn't fight me and say, no, you're too fast today. And then I had all my charts, and I would always read like my handwritten notes, right? Because I didn't want to mess up at all. I could play the whole show from memory, but I was like, just in case, I want to have my cliff notes, and I want to have my metronome, and because they're relying on me. So that's a little bit like showy for Zappa. It should be more loose, right?
Yeah.
Because he changed tempos and styles every night. He had a cue, and we go, and the whole band would go to reggae. Like, if we did that, the whole show would be like, what are you doing over there?
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, so I had to compromise that. And then the spots where I could be super weird, I would say, let's go more weird than the album. Let's push it, like, hard. Like the part at the end where it's the imaginary guitar solo and the guy's supposed to lose his mind. I was playing so out, like so really, really out. But the point was, like, people were like resistant to it for a while. And so I go, okay, I'm going to keep some tempo going, so that my out, I actually mean what the hell I'm playing. And that gave people at least enough of an audio cue to be like, oh, okay, wow, okay, there's something I can latch onto, and what he's playing that's out makes more sense now in context, right? And then there was like another song, anyway, there was this, just a bunch of tunes in there that were funny. And so anyway, show opens, we do a bunch of shows. Zappa heads come down, people who play on the record, people, ex-alumni, Emo Richards came, Warren Cucurullo came, Arthur Barrow came. I mean, like, they're all, it's a thing. And a lot of people liked it, and a lot of people had certain criticisms, things you could do better, whatever. And I was kind of left alone until a bunch of other drummers showed up who wanted the gig.
Oh,
right?
Boy.
Then it became like this. It became, you do the show and you're all chipper, and then you see like everyone's having a good time, and there's like three guys going like, just giving you the shit stare, like.
God.
And then even this one guy was saying weird things on the break, like, cool, man, yeah, you didn't mess up.
God.
And I was like, really? Are we really doing this? And so again, me being in character of this show, I go, I want to get fired for playing too crazy. I want to get fired for playing too loud. I want to get fired for being more of an asshole. Like, do it. People would be shocked to know that's me, right?
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, okay, fine. And so it became like the last half of the run is I'd sit down and I'd play, and then the show opens and I'd be like, I'm playing my thing. Here's some Vinny. Here's some stuff for you guys. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're having a good time. Oh, let's party. All right. And we'd be like, you know, like what would you call it? It's like a psychotic thing where like you're just super happy about some things and super pissed off about others at the same time. You know what I mean? It was the craziest thing. And so it was so draining that after the show, you know, I'd stay at, like with my friend Herbert who came to see you. I'd be like, you just have to stay and drink until 3 a.m. to decompress. And so we just, you know, have some drinks and everyone would hang out. And we're like always like the stragglers, 3 or 4 a.m. Go home and get up. And then I go, okay, I have to chill out all day to save my energy for the show. So I'd get up and I would go have bun, the Vietnamese, you know, with the pork and the thing. So I'd get up around noon. I'd go have a giant bun, like the large one. And it's so heavy food, it would knock me out. I'd go sleep for another couple hours. Then I kind of straggle into my show. I'd have my coffee and my tea. And then by the time the show's there, I'm like, ready to kill it, you know? And then so by the end of the show, it was like, just so happy and angry and everything. Again, drink and decompress, you know. I posted a video on my Instagram that I found somewhere online. Somebody did this, and it's like the end of the show, and it was actually like one of our last shows, maybe the Saturday night before our Sunday's last show, and they were videoing, and they close up on me for just a second. It's the end of the whole thing, and bang, and I hit it, and I stood up, and I looked so pissed off. I looked so angry, and I'm like, I wanted to tell people why. They would just be like, "Oh, that's so sad," and I'm like, "No, man, you don't get it." It's like to be stuck in a no-win situation where you're expected to be winning unit. You're expected to help a bunch of people who don't know what 19 is. You're expected to like defend yourself alone against people who hope you fuck up that don't have your job. I'm like, what is this? This is not about the music. Come on.
Wow.
So I survived, and I got hazed by Gail, which was cool. You know, it turned out cool, luckily. I had dinner with her and Diva Zappa and other people on the show one night, and she just sat next to me, and she turned to me, she goes, I got a question for you. She's like, I've asked everyone all over town about you, and no one has a fucking bad word to say. She's like, what the hell is your deal? I was like, I don't know what kind of question that is, how to answer that. Seriously. And I was like, I said, I don't know what to tell you, but I mean, I just don't do anything I don't like. So if I like it, I'm in it. I don't just get up there and like check my watch and half-ass it. So that's all I got for you. She's like, cool. And so then at the end of the whole run, we're at like a cast hangout, and she asked me, you know, at that time she was in a giant lawsuit with Sony to get their Frank's catalog back because they owned it and for years, and they put it up on iTunes without a permission, without a renegotiation. So she wanted it all back. And she's like, well, I have no, the only thing I have of Frank's catalog are the things we take out of the archives and put out, or new works like what Joe Travers was doing. She's like, do you want to record some of Frank's music and I'll put it up for you on our account for iTunes? And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. And then it was great. So I got out my recording thing, and I was like going to select some tunes and get going and whatever. And I started asking people, hey, you want to be part of this? And everybody said no. Everybody said no. And I was like, fuck, are you serious? I was like, I guess I could throw out a line to the public, but that's weird, you know? And you're going to get like those people at that show that like, I want your gig, I hope you screw up. You're going to get those people. And do you want to deal with them, you know? Yeah. And I was like, why not? And so apparently, you know, Frank he was a business guy, and I can't speak for him, but I could just say what I understand. Like talking to the ex-band members and it was like, basically, if somebody was let go from Frank's band, it was maybe financial, or someone held him hostage for something, or it was just whatever, you know. Yeah. Relationship ended, it's fine. So the people who were still sort of looming around, Gail didn't want to deal with them. She alienated them. She wouldn't allow them to play in our show. Like, you guys who play on the record, she was like, nope. Frank fired you for a reason. Nope, you're not playing. Yeah. it's sort of like she was staying true to him, you know.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, so I'm left with the task of like, I've got this thing to do and no one will help me. So I was like, there's no way I can learn like, you know, Peaches and Regalia on 4 instruments in time to make a recording. I was like, you know, I can't learn bass and piano and all that stuff. No way. I mean, not to that level, you know. So some time went by and I was just like, I was just busy working and doing other things and just like, I don't see this happening, you know. And then she passed away and I was like, well, it's maybe for the better. And she did get the catalog back eventually, you know, so that's good. So it's kind of all in proper order now.
And so did you play with Frank?
No, when I moved to LA, he died in 93, I think.
Okay.
And somewhere early 90s, maybe 95. I moved here in 90 and I was in graduate school. So I was off the map for 2.5 years doing that. And I was working a lot. So, you know, like when you're working a lot and you have this false sense of like, yeah, I'm killing it. I'm a musician. I'm working. But then you do it enough and then you realize, oh, I'm just working. I'm not contributing.
Right.
So I was working a lot when I moved here, like a lot.
Yeah.
You know, never had to worry about rent kind of thing. And then after about 6-7 years of that, I'd be at some like corporate event in Orange County going, there's some great music happening in LA tonight that I should be playing. And I'm stuck doing this. I'm making money, but I'm not contributing. So it took me about 10 years to fight my way out of that system where people wouldn't call me for corporate, you know, dead end gigs at some place that would pay a lot of money. But yeah, I just wanted to contribute and be an artist. And so this is a weird topic, but you know, everyone has like a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
So I would always say, instead of that, I'm going to have a yearly theme.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I swear I'm going to get healthy. I go, no, this is the year of fill in the blank.
Yeah.
So I had one year, I go, this is going to be the year to take the coolest gig. So if I've got a commercial gig like that and a cooler gig comes along with cool music, I'm taking it. And at the end of the year, I'm like doing my taxes going, yeah, next year's not going to be the year of the coolest gig. No.
It's going to be a little half and half there.
Yeah. And then I had the year of shameless self-promotion. So just do it. Just do it. And that was the year, it was 2007. I remember because for whatever reason, I finished 5 CDs and they all hit the finish line at the same time. So I did a 5 CD release show at the Big Potato.
Oh my God.
That was hilarious. And
were they all your CDs or other people's?
all mine. There was one that was I did with somebody else, but the other ones were mine, or at least that I produced, you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I can't remember what all the 5 were. I remember 2 of the 5 were a trio with Larry Koonse, and then a trio with Mike Hoffman and Doug Shreve of freely improvised, kind of like rock music. Pretty cool. And then I think, it was one of my steel drum records that was a Police tribute, I believe. Or maybe it was the one before that. But anyway, it was like just me playing everything.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a record with Dutes, one of our duos, probably 2 timing. We have a record called 2 timing, which is just 2 microphones and I was playing everything.
Good name.
Something like that. So I played the Potato. The first set was Warrington, Koonse trio playing all Bill Evans music. Second set was Hoffman, Shreve, freely improvised music. It was great. It was really fun.
That's funny. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Dan DeVille is here, and he actually posted a link to great videos with steel drum, and he said this one is really a good one. So I'm going to actually share the screen and go to that. And
that lets me wonder, like, okay, what have I done now?
this
is a recent one. Cool.
Love is the 100th monkey.
I just posted this yesterday.
Oh, cool. Okay, now honestly, I didn't get where the time was until towards the end when it became real obvious. But in the beginning, how the heck? What were you? Where was it? Was that the time? Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're the perfect person to ask because you're not hip to this series, right? It's like
Right.
I'm putting up. That's the fifth one I've done, and it's basically like I'm trying to. I mean, did it sound jagged to you, or did it sound natural?
The sound.
Yeah, just the overall picture of that song being played like that. Was it just did it just seem like flowing and natural, or was it like, you know what I mean? Like the time
Yeah.
is
I know
odd.
exactly what you mean. Because I mean, I think when there are odd meters, the whole attraction is to get past reading and thinking in time and just feeling the music, right?
Yep.
And I mean, when I wasn't trying to think of the of the time, I was trying to feel that, and so not everything felt like that to me, but maybe I was beginning to feel like that, and just kind of, especially probably, well, it seemed like you and I mean, drumming and the steel drums were in a different zone or something.
Yeah, it's for sure is well, see, each instrument has its own character, right? So that one was an 11/16, and that's my favorite of the odd meters because it's really a waltz with a short two. So you
like
you take them. If you take the math out of it, it's just 1, 2, 3, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. So if you listen to the beginning, boom, boom, boom.
Okay, yeah.
It's like it's very lyrical. It's very easy, right?
Yeah.
And if you just play, if you play the odd time stuff, like you don't make it a science game.
Yeah.
You just play what you normally play in 3, and just subtract that little beat and make it. It's a little skip, That one is called the Kopanica, which is a Bulgarian dance, Turkish and Bulgarian dance, and people dance to that stuff. But it's not the way I played that is not. If I played you a Kopanica, the rhythm is nearly the same, but the music's so foreign and so alien.
Yeah.
But when I go tour with Omar, Faruk, or whatever, it's like I know how that stuff goes, and if I play that music in America, the comments have been, "Wow, it just sounds like Middle Eastern terrorist music or something." That's how ignorant it is they hear. They're like, "No, it's not." But then I get a call to play, like me and Mayla's gonna call to replace a soundtrack for this show called Sleeper Cell, which is about terrorism.
Yes.
So that's the right.
That's good.
It's like every time you're gonna hear a oud and the doom back, it's like, oh, terrorists. You go, no, it's actually just Turkey. But okay. It's like when you play steel drums and they have Hawaiian shirts. You're like, okay, we're on a safari and okay with Hawaiian shirts.
Well, right. Like Toby Simmons said, it seems calypso, and of course it seems calypso because steel drum is, calypso sounding, right?
Yes.
So, Joey De Leon said it plays nice as a 4/4 as well.
True. My version of 4/4 is also on iTunes. Anyway, maybe it is. I don't know, but. The point of that series is that I have all this odd time stuff inside, and the way that I feel about that stuff is like I don't want to play it like a math assignment. When you call something, if someone says let's play an 11, and then they start playing all this stuff, you're like, man, it either winds up being a boxed in pattern, pattern music, or it winds up being like I'm gonna show off all this permutations of what I can do, and go, that's not really music.
Yeah.
Like, would you ever say to somebody, this is to show you how asinine it is. Like, would you ever say, man, I'm going to go work on my 4/4. I'm going to it goes like this. 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2. Got that? It's like, you would never explain a 4/4 to someone like that. But somehow people go odd time. Yeah, it's really, it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 3. And you're like, I'm already not interested. It's just weird as a drummer saying like, I'm not going to break it down for you. But I mean, maybe in education that's necessary, but I just explain it to you very easily. It's a waltz with a short 2, right?
Yeah. And now
everybody
I know.
Does that.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the way people learn music is by learning songs.
Yeah.
So if you know the Middle Eastern stuff, it's folkloric music, it's dance music, and you learn the songs, you go, oh, that makes sense. That's rocking. That 11 is killing, right? And
right.
So I wanted to bring some of that to the music that people maybe can understand. But then I know adding the steel drum is a different thing because there's a thing called, that I call, calypso or Trinidadian phrasing.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's almost the same as New Orleans, early New Orleans music, or Brazilian. Like Cuban, not so much. Cubans have a different swing. But it's in there, but certain things are push and pull. But their 16ths can be straighter, and Trinidadian Calypso 16ths get closer to a 5 subdivision. Not being too technical, but
kind of lazier or something, right?
it's lazier. Well, yeah, and so that's kind of the New Orleans thing too. It's almost a 5.
Yeah.
If you had to quantize it, right? So when I think of playing lines on steel drum, I'll drag them out, and so dragging them out over odd time just confuses the hell out of people. I got an email once after the ensemble gig with Cathy. I got an email once from a guy who said, "When you're soloing, are you keeping the form? Because it just sounds like you're just going off." And I was like, "Man, I was okay. I understand." And I was like, "I am keeping the form, but I have this Caribbean phrasing. It's built into me, right?" And I think that's important history of jazz. It's directly to New Orleans, because all of the trade ships back then with slaves and Spanish instruments and French people and Chinese and whatever, they all went to all the Caribbean islands and stopped in New Orleans last, right? Same people who got dumped off in the same instruments. So if you listen to music from Trinidad from 1910 and listen to New Orleans, it sounds exactly the same. It's just they all grew up differently, right? So as more instruments came in and more things developed and more local cultural aspects came in, but the root is the same.
Yeah.
So I feel like I know jazz maybe a lot better through my history with steel drum.
Yeah.
But my history with jazz was long before I even played steel drum, but my feel wasn't the same. And now I hear it and I go, oh man, okay. And so what used to bug me, like, for example, like about Max Roach's ride cymbal, I hear it now and I go, oh no, man, he's just more like Caribbean phrasing.
Like what?
Caribbean.
Phrasing. Yeah.
Like to be very specific. Okay, let me just be very specific. Art Blakey is very triplet based, right? He drops the stick. It's very like, very, right?
Yeah.
Max Roach is more like,
yeah.
And that's almost a 5 grouping.
Okay. Fortunately, your beginning is there, and then the last part is like super faint. But yeah, I think that everybody basically heard it.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm a huge Max Roach fan as far as his melodicism and his ideas and what his contribution. But I never liked the ride cymbal until I got into Caribbean music, and I go, oh, ding, light bulb. Okay, great, got it.
Yeah.
So
that's such a huge subject, and the feel. I mean, especially I can imagine for a drummer. Yeah, I mean, when I tell my students that the bass player is the one to listen to, I mean, as far as connecting for the time, and they always say, well, what about the drummer? And well, the drummer, everybody has to have a good time, and the drummer especially because he's a percussive instrument, but it's really the bass player who's really just pretty much laying it down, and then everybody else is kind of, dancing around with them on the other side, But
right.
Yeah, Roland is a fan of Tigran Hamasyan, and he said he's actually a genius in breaking up 4/4 into beautiful feels. 4/4. Somebody's mentioning the Hosen House, and that was the place you booked for a while, right?
Yeah, for 4 years. We did that. It was a nonprofit space. Yeah, for 4 years, did jazz concerts. My first concert there was with Quinn Johnson.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was interesting because I started out with sort of a jazz program in mind, and then it became more than I could manage because it's in Irvine. So every time I go down, it's a drive. So I get, okay, you got to do this. So I go once a month or once every 2 weeks, do a piano trio concert because it's a piano room.
Yeah.
Piano trio concert, book who you want months in advance, guarantee them some money, play for free, get a bass player. If there's more money, fine, whatever. And so basically I had it by the end where each concert would just pay for the next concert. That's all I wanted. So I could get Amaro down there or Bill Cunliffe or whatever. It was like, right? It was beautiful. So, and then other people who hit me up like saxophone players or guitarists or whatever, I go, well, it's not exactly that kind of room. Just rent it, you know? And so some people did, and they did very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was more like, I don't want to burn out my audience on doing too many shows per month. You know, it's not going to be steamers or whatever. So
yeah.
Let's just I'll focus on my thing. And if other people want to do that, it's great. So I kind of think that policy worked pretty well for a while. But what's sad about that place is literally if she, the lady who owns the Hosten House, had she bought the house literally across the street, it would still be running.
Oh, God.
Because that's unincorporated Irvine. They don't care. But where her house is in Irvine, and it's in a residential district. And I showed up and there was a big red notice on the door from the city, cease and desist all operations, and they shut it down.
I hate when that happens. It's so stupid. It's just like so wrong, unnecessary wrong. I booked a room years ago in Glendale called I forget the name of it. It was near Jack's, and it was a really nice, beautiful room. It was like a nice sized restaurant, one room, and in the middle, there was the band, and it was just, I believe it was mostly duos, as I recall, but the city made it so difficult for the owner. It was ridiculous. They finally just had to stop because the city just kept, adding more and more, things that they had to do, or, you had to add a ramp and you had to do this. And there was so much that was really difficult. I just never get that. It's like, oh, come on, give us a break,
Yeah, it's too bad. It's really bad. Well, I mean, I was encouraging Chi to sell that place and go commercial. Go to a commercial district and do it right. And the cost of doing that down there is prohibitive. But also, it's something about the address of that house was the address of her grandfather's house.
Oh.
So it's a little bit Japanese spirituality connection there. And she's originally from Nagoya, and I think Long Beach are sister cities. Or close to, I forgot. So there is some of her grandfather's calligraphy in the archives of wherever that is, Long Beach or Costa Mesa, I forgot. So there's a connection there, It's a very interesting connection. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to say, you must sell this house and go commercial. It's like, it's cool. Do what you want to do. I see. It's been about 4 years maybe since music was there for jazz. She still does her student recitals there. But my drums are still there. My spare drum set. So really? It's still
That's cool. So you sent me your site? Is that what you sent me? Your website?
I put up a Wix website years ago, and there's some videos up there that are more current of you were looking for something to play for a bumper music.
Oh, yeah. And also Toby said you can pull a piece of this from, it was Alive at 0 BPM.
Nice.
Roland said you should try and play something out of the Fat Baby CD because anything will sound good. Toby said pull one of Doots and Chris, The Obliteration. That was the Hosen House, Ron Levy said. Is that correct?
I got to give props to Billy Holting, who you know.
Yeah.
He's ran this 0 BPM series and started out of nowhere. And when he asked me about it, I was like, "Let's do it, man! Come on!" And he's worked his ass off as generations have gone by of the show, working out the bugs and getting it. And he's also the powerful force of just being a entertaining personality and engaging people,
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
people interested. And gotta say, man, God bless Billy Alting, because he's made a lot of stuff happen and awareness happen during COVID that would have not happened.
Yeah, I know.
know?
He's been doing a lot of really great stuff.
Yeah, and so the major props, okay, that's all fine and great. He gave musicians a lot of work, and we created a series, and he's worked his ass off, lots of thankless hours. Yeah, but forget all that. He dropped in with the Obliteration Trio and rocked it. Now that's okay. I've played with Dutes now for over 25 years.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, everybody knows he's the craziest percussion. He's the craziest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm blessed to work with like super gifted percussionists who are like unbelievable, and to say one's greater than the other, not possible. They're all different, right? So like you're not gonna like outpower Joey DeLeon on those congas, man. He's like the only person like break a conga head on a gig. I'm like, anyway, that's whatever. I mean, what I'm saying is like Joey's got more chops on congas maybe than I have drum sets, probably. Yeah. I'm just it's like stupefying. Anyway, I could start naming them and what's special about everybody, and it's like it's gonna go on. This show's not long enough, but sum total is Dutes is the craziest, and he has this obliteration thing, which is found objects, and it's some composition and freely improvised music, and it takes a certain personality to play that stuff. And we've had subs over the years. I'm a sub. I'm not an original member. One of the original members passed away, and so then after that he revived it with me, and I think the next concert was with me and James Yoshizawa. Yeah, we played at Paul Carmen's studio up in Idlewild, and it was good. And we sort of like had a run for a while and did some stuff. But I always feel like I'm the forever sub. This is a group it's Brad's brainchild, but it's the personality of those people.
Did I see you guys at Sunland, the Sunspace?
Yes, and that was with Joe Berardi and why am I blanking right now? Anyway, Berardi is an original member, and he's a creative force. He's like, I saw a solo show he did, and I would pay to see that anytime. He was so good. He played some keyboards, and he puts like these little wedges to keep notes like sustaining while he played drums and stuff, and using effects. And like he got little toys, and he circuit broke them. So like this little toy is supposed to say "mommy" or whatever. It's like going, It's brilliant. Okay, anyway, back to Billy Holting.
So is this the obliteration thing? I mean, you could tell us, and then we could see it.
We did Obliteration Trio, and I'm telling you, I feel I'm not an original member, but Dutes and I have had the duo for 25 years. So I know Dutes, I know it's crazy. Obliteration, I've seen a lot of people die on the gig. They don't get it, or they're not funny enough, or they're reading the music, or the improvising is just their agenda. It's not in the thing.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of stuff we did with Billy. We didn't have time to rehearse because there's technical crap going on, right? And so we just played it. And Billy rocked the shit out of it. Like, I would say as good as any member of the group, any core member has ever done it. So yeah, it was fantastic. That's all I got to say. I mean,
so this is the one, let's see. I'm looking for, there's, it's probably on the Billy Holting one, right? Which Toby sent me. She sent, let's see. Yeah, this is the 0 p.m. Obviously, it's on the 0 p.m., right? Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is. I'd like to see a little of this, if you don't mind.
Sure. If it's from the top, just like fast forward because we're.
You're talking and stuff.
Yeah, it goes on. Wow. Wow.
It's really cool. Is there more? There's more. I want to see a little more. I love it.
Nice. Frame drum is beautiful.
Oh God,
Wow.
it's so cool, man. I have a few comments I should really read to you. Let's see, where is everybody? Here we are. Hold on one second. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Well, Katina's here.
All right.
She said, I remember we were supposed to play there with you, Chris. So sad.
At the Hosen, I know that was the next concert.
Michael Bluestein's here.
Oh, what's up? Yeah.
Says Wobs. And everybody's saying they loved this. And Roland was there at Sunspace too that time.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
Double clave.
yeah, whoops. Oh.
Yeah, so that just reminds me of something that's connective, is that the Orange County Philharmonic used to have these in-school clinic shows, right? And so I was gifted being the leader of this ensemble called Percussion Magic, and our goal was to go into schools and, like, you know, in Orange County, mostly in schools that didn't have a music program. That was the point. And we do a demonstration of, it'd be like Afro-Cuban, Brazilian, and then steel drum, Caribbean, right? And we show people, and so it'd be like, we always have this rap of like, hello, boys and girls, today we're going to take you around the world using our drums or whatever. So over the years, the personnel changed a lot because of people moving in and out of town. Originally, it was Kurt Rasmussen,
Which
me, and David Romero.
Sent. Sorry, just having a little technical difficulty. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was all good. And so then David Romero moved to Vegas, and then Kurt Rasmussen moved to Vegas, and then he said, "You take it over." I said, "Okay." And so over the years, I had the round table of the LA's craziest percussionists in there. It was like Ron Powell, I had Joey De Leon, Tiki, and I had Doots. I think Scott Bredman did a few. And it was just like, it was funny. And I remember one year, scared the crap out of me. Joey says, "I'm not playing congas this year." He's like, because we're going to demonstrate the stuff, right? You play congas. And I'm like, man, I don't want to play congas in front of Joey De Leon. Forget that shit. No way. And so I did it. And I was like scared to death every time I would play. And I remember we were at this school one time in Santa Ana. And I literally said, "Joey, man, you realize even a janitor can play congas better than me." And I'm not kidding. After the show, this guy comes up and starts playing the congas. It was a janitor. he was killing it. I was like, I told you. But it forced me under fire of arguably the greatest conga player in LA. Like, you better learn to marcha a little bit better than you have, Mr. White Dude. I was like, oh. So it's been a blessing and a butt kicking to be around these guys who are, everyone's got their own specialty, you know, and it's developed me to think more about what my specialty is and embrace that. Like I would, maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't post those steel drum videos that I just posted. I would be like, that's too weird for people. And then they're going to call me for steel drum. And then it's going to be like, everyone's going to expect all this stuff. And it's going to just be weird. I just want to play drums. I already shoot myself down in the head. And now I'm like, you know what? You can do all this crap. I should have put this up 20 years ago, you know?
That's interesting. Sorry to interrupt your flow, but Atmaro says, "Dear Cathy, both Katina and me are listening to your wonderful interview. Too bad you couldn't find anybody talented for today." And he said, hard to think of any musician more open to real time, spontaneous exploration than Chris without sacrificing feel and time. And it truly makes me crazy not having more outlets to make more music together with him.
Yeah, agreed. At some point I have a list. I even made a COVID list. Check me out. I made a COVID list. All the stuff on the back burner. And now Mark's on my list.
See, Otmaro. Actually, he and I are going to be in the studio this week.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's almost embarrassing because it's too simple a song to give to him, But I asked him right up front. I said, it's a really simple song. He said, it's okay. I love simple songs. So I said, okay, because
Right.
it's going to be a kind of a nice bossa. Anyway,
Okay, I got a good Amara story.
you do?
This is just me, but it's just my own shit. So he had that the quartet with Branley and Jimmy Johnson and Ben Wendell, and I went and saw them at Potato many times, and fantastic. Really, like, that's one of those things that, we talk about LA versus New York, the rivalry. You go, dudes, you guys check this quartet out. Seriously, this could beat the crap out of anything in New York. I mean, come on, let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And then New York's gonna blow back with something with Chris Pot, something. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
So Branley only ever subbed once that I know of, and so Amara said, I got this thing. It's over in Silver Lake. Can you do it? And I was like, oh damn. And so I got all the charts, and I still have them. They're all like 20 pages, huge charts. And he gave me a bootleg of them playing with Branley and Jimmy Johnson, and I was like, oh crap. And so I just happened to like have the summer, it was summertime and I was single, and I was like, I'm just gonna stay up and shed the crap out of this and not mess up. I just don't want to mess up because these guys know the music deep, So I decided that I would shed everything at about 20 BPM faster than the record. So, so that when it slowed down to the Amaro tempo, I'd be like, all right, cool, we can relax. And I got to the gig and it was faster than that. Everything. He has this one crazy 9 Montuno, and I have a recording of that somewhere. I used to leave that as my bumper music on MySpace because it was like so fast. It was ridiculous, And we're hanging. I was like, dang, we're actually doing it, I was like, and I just kind of collapsed after that gig. I was so exhausted. It was like, to learn all that stuff and we didn't rehearse. We just showed up and did it. And it was like, the pressure of being under the Jimmy Branley Cuban cloud, and then Maro's thing, the history of that, and then just being a sub and not screwing up. It was like, it was exhausting. But I really, that was like, if I look back on many things in my time, I really enjoyed the week and a half of preparation for that gig, because you really had to learn some stuff that's left-handed, and you have to do it. You can't just show up and go, oh yeah, you got your thing, it's one gig. It's like, don't be that guy, just do it. Like I told you with the Gail Zappa, like, don't say yes to anything you don't like. And so being a fan of Amaro and his music, and then getting asked to play is an honor, and I wanted to be sincere and serious about it, and you know what I mean. So it was like frightening, but also wonderful at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I ever heard you with Otmaro. I heard Branley, and I heard I can't remember her name because I really don't know her. The female, she's
Anna, yeah.
Oh yeah, what is her whole name?
I may mess up her last name, Barrios, right? So
I don't know.
they were playing. This is long after the quartet I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, so Amaro had that quartet. It was just instrumental for a long time. And then I think after that gig, he took a break for a couple of years. Maybe I ruined it. I don't know. No, he told me he was burnt out about stuff,
Yeah.
and whatnot. I also remember there was another night at Baked Potato. I was there watching them play, and it was some holiday. I don't remember what, but there was this really drunk lady there, like really uncomfortably drunk.
Yeah.
She was on a date, and for whatever reason, she thought Jimmy Johnson was boring as a bass player. Because Jimmy he's no Flash. That guy's deep. He's deep, but he's no Flash. He's not going to do the oinky boinky slum slapping shit. So he'd take a solo, and she started screaming, "Boring! It's fucking."
Oh God!
Up, and she was like really drunk, and she was ruining the whole gig. She was ruining everybody was upset.
Yeah.
And I remember Ardmore had to call her out on the mic, and everyone kind of said, "Would you please stop talking?" and all this stuff. And nobody would kick her out. And I happened to be sitting at the next table. So I kind of screamed at her a few times, and then screamed at her boy. And then she said something about Jimmy Johnson, and he just got so defeated. And I was like, this is not cool, you know? And so I told her, I said, you need to stop talking or you're going to have to leave. And she goes, who the fuck are you? I said, I own this place. I own this club. I'm going to kick you out. And then she shut up. I was like, oh, that's all it takes.
Yay, Chris.
It's funny, right? It's really random. I'm sure Omar remembers that night well, because that was uncalled for, you know. We've all had those nights of drunk people, but you're the big potato, man. It should be listening. They should have kicked that person out. But Justin wasn't there, and whatever happened. So
yeah. So every now and then you have a club kind of rise to the occasion for that. Actually, Dante's was, believe it or not, a little like that. Carrie would go over to somebody and have them leave. And, you know, as a waitress, sometimes people didn't tip you at all for some reason, you know, and we'd just tell Carrie, and he'd go over to the person, and, you know, we were okayed to say to the person, why didn't you tip me? And remember when the Blue Whale started for a few years, the bouncer, I forget his name, the big guy.
yeah,
He would come and shush everybody, even in the bar area. Yep.
well, that's good. There, by the end of the last couple of years, the bar area was always chit chatty, you know.
Yeah.
And it was mostly because, I mean, there's a lot of young people too, but not blaming anyone. But I even made a few posts about it, joking. It was like, I'm playing at the Whale tonight. Come down and see me. But if you really don't dig who I'm playing with, at least come and book your birthday show, because I know that's why you're coming. That's the only reason you're there. You don't give a crap what's going on over there, but just talk a little less at the bar. You know, it's like
there were several times I would tell people in the audience, you know, to, like, you know, shut up, basically. You know, if you're sitting in here, you know, look around. You're the only person talking. Can you? Do you realize that? Hello. Yeah,
I guess that's one thing cool about doing streaming now is you don't have that issue.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah, I try to find the positive in the streaming situation, but I think ultimately what would be really cool is when things reopen is to have a hybrid, do small concerts with an audience of 10, you know, for distancing and whatnot, and then stream it. And so you have the live people with that energy. Yeah, like they'd be like a live in studio. They used to do that. Like GIRP or All Stars, that album is live in studio. They have an audience. I think it was maybe only 30 people, but that's enough to give you like, you better be on point. No redos, you know?
Yeah. Admaro, did you do that one that happened with Rhiannon? I can't remember if you were the pianist. I know Alex Acuna was there, and Abe Laboriel. There was one like that in that big studio, kind of in the middle of North Hollywood and Toluca Lake on Magnolia. I don't think it was it Entourage? I think it was a bigger one. Anyway, that was a really nice gig. So it was a very large studio, and they were improvising and recording, and it was really nice. You know, there was a nice audience, and yeah, they used to do that a lot, right?
Yeah, in studio audience kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of great music that's documented in LA with this kind of concept, you know. Yeah. And now that a lot of more studios are closing and whatnot, it's kind of sad in a way, but every now and then I get a piece of what it must have been like in the 70s and 80s to be here and recording. Like I remember one time there's a songwriter, maybe you know him, Randy Waldman.
Sure.
Sorry, not Randy Waldman.
Oh, Wendy. Are you talking about Wendy Waldman?
Sorry, no, it's
Songwriter?
Randy Elderman.
Oh, okay.
He wrote like some pop hits for people and stuff. So he was doing his own solo record. And a friend of mine was the engineer over at this studio called Rusk, which has been there for ages. And he called me up. He's like, "Hey, can you come up and do this?" I said, "Sure." And I'm listening to the stuff and I go, "Man, this just sounds like Carlos Vega would be the perfect guy for this, not me, you know?" And so I was like I told you earlier, I was like, make every song special. But I was like, yeah, I can't do that on this. This is really Carlos Vega's thing. So I just did my best Carlos. I used to obsess about that guy, right? And then the engineer, you know, he heard it and he's like, "That's great, man." He goes, "You know, you remind me of Carlos Vega. He used to come here and record soap operas every week when he and Jimmy Johnson would come in and do this." And it was really the way you played that. And I was like, man, I didn't tell him what I was thinking. I was just thinking like, man, that's one of the biggest compliments I've probably ever gotten. That I actually was able to like dial it up. And, you know, because that's a piece of real history that those guys were in there every day recording, because you needed people back then. You don't have machines.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Sorry to interrupt your flow again, but I don't think I asked you kind of just a little bit about your background, you know, like how you came up and where you came up. And
yeah, that's always funny. Every time I do a thing with people, it's like I always go off the deep end, and then at the very end, it's like, "Where are you from?"
well, I really like to go along with the flow of, you know, conversation, but I am curious actually.
So I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
Which, when I moved to LA, nobody knew what that place is, and now everybody
they do. Yeah.
everybody does. Because it's kind of the first time I went to Berkeley and Arcata, I was like, oh, it's the same. It's basically like a hippie run town, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of progressive thinking and whatnot, and so growing up there, I had a few teachers, but my most informative and favorite teacher was a guy named Byron Hedgepeth. And I could say that's where I got my clarity of tone from. His tone was very clear and precise. And other people have changed my phrasing and my whatever, but I feel that's where I got it from. And he took me through, you know, some reading and stuff. But the main thing that he did for me, which is mind-blowingly cool, is he had a stack of LPs in his studio, racks, you know, and every week he would force me to check out 2 records. You're going to sign these 2 out like a library, you know, on the wall. He had his sign-up sheet here. So this week you're going to listen to Weather Report, Heavy Weather, and you're going to listen to this Wayne Shorter record. So I go home, and the ones that I liked, I would make cassettes of, you know, and I still have my cassette of like 3 quartets to Korea. I just found that the other day, like the cassette that I made, and I made that when I was about 15, maybe 14. And I listened to that stayed in the car, and I listened to that record probably 1,000 times, like no kidding. And I just remember, like he checked me out. He checked out, like, I think it was My Funny Valentine or something like that, one week, and it was, you know, Tony Williams, and I was like, listening to that, going, oh damn, that's really hard. And I showed up next week, and he goes, guess how old that drummer is? And I was 16 at the time. I was like, I don't know. He goes, he's 17. And in my mind, I'm like, oh shit, I have a year to get that together. I have a year to get Tony Williams together. Are you kidding me? So I would like try to just get my rights. I'm like, I can't do it. Oh, you know, and it really, really, really hard to get that together. And as a result, like I obsessed for a while over the ride cymbal thing, getting it that clean, you know, and I almost can do it. So I did that, and then I went to North Carolina School of the Arts, finished high school there. And practically their whole faculty was from Juilliard. My teacher, Massey Johnson, was a renowned timpanist, lived in Boston for a while, and then was principal, I think, of Birmingham Symphony for a while. And then, anyways, heavy duty guy. And there's a method book that's for timpani, Saul Goodman, which is like the standard. He was Saul Goodman's like protege, and he kind of wrote the book. He told me him and another student formulated the book, and it was like they took Saul's concepts and just put it in writing. So first thing he did is he got the book and he opened it up and he gave me all the corrections, which nobody ever did. He's like, here's what's wrong, here's what's wrong. He just like went through my whole book and okay, now we're ready to learn. So that was very strict classical study, and you're expected to practice 6 to 8 hours a day or you flunk. So I'm practicing, 6 hours of classical music, and I was like, I want to play some jazz, man. I want to play some drums. So I do that, and I was gigging a lot on the weekends. My teacher sent me to Byron, I mentioned earlier, in Asheville, is surrounded by golf resorts. So there's probably 40 different golf resorts around there, and each resort had like a big band that would play for dancing. So as a 14-year-old, I'm sent into these gigs with these guys who are like in their 60s and 70s, who played, like they retired there after playing with Benny Goodman. And they're leading big bands, and they're screaming at the kid playing drums, it's this tempo kid, and do this and do this. And I was like scared to death. But eventually I got it. I mean, I whatever that means. Eventually I understood what they wanted.
Yeah.
You're playing big band swing dance music for dancers. So that's how I was able to like kind of finance my college for a while. And then at School of the Arts, I got an audition for this theme park called Carowinds. And I got the gig. That was the first call for the gig. And they offered me, he said, you can do the country show or the rock show. Take your pick. And I was like, no brainer, rock show, come on. And then so they're like, okay, there's a catch. So, okay, there's a catch. If you do the rock show, in the morning, you only do 3 rock shows in the afternoon. In the morning, you have to do 3 Scooby-Doo shows. I was like, marginal. And then they're like, okay, well, it's just fair warning. If you do the Scooby-Doo shows, Scooby-Doo talks to the kids. So we don't want it. So therefore, your action has to be with him on tape. We don't want the kids to know that it's fake. So you have to wear headphones. Back then, there were no in-ear monitors, right? You have to work with a click track and wear headphones. So in order to cover up the headphones, we need you to wear Scooby-Doo ears. And I was like, I will be doing the country show. Thank you very much. I was like, I don't want my homies coming to the theme park watching me do Scooby-Doo. So I did that for 2 years. That was an amazing time because I lived in Charlotte, and I saw Chick Corea Electric Band. I saw Alan Holdsworth with Vinnie Colaiuta. He only ever did 5 shows with them. I saw one of them.
Oh.
I saw James Taylor with Carlos Vega and Don Grolnick. I saw a bunch of shows those 2 summers, and after seeing a few of those, I practiced. So I would play this theme park thing, and because this is dumb luck, but because the rock show was outdoors, the country show was indoors in like this little barn kind of vibe, country store thing. So after our shows, everyone bailed. Like 10 minutes after the show, the place was empty. And I said, hey, can I stay after and practice? They're like, we don't care. So I would stay in shed for another, 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Trying to play the Matheny, and I would like have my Matheny tapes, and I had my Holzer tapes, and I had my Chick Corea tapes, and I would just like put on the cassette, and I like, shed. And that was like some of the greatest summers I ever spent, like that. And so then it was time to choose a college, and I could have stayed at School of the Arts for college.
Yeah.
But the word on the street is that degree is worth nothing. It's not going to transfer. No one's going to take you seriously. It was just bullshit to get you to quit that school by other people. You need to go to a state school. You need to get whatever. And it was basically because everyone's like, no one ever makes it as a musician. You need an education degree. It's back in that era where it was like, right?
Yeah.
There was no jazz degree. There was no pedagogy degree. It was like classical music. You're going to get a performance degree in classical music? Are you nuts? So I went to a local school, Appalachian State, and my credits didn't transfer from School of the Arts. And I was like, oh, you guys are right. That school is worthless. So I asked the people at App State, I was like, what can I do? And they said, well, you could test out of freshman level, credit by exam. You got to pay for the units, but you could test out of it. I go, great, bring it on. So I tested out of freshman year, and I finished the undergrad school in 3 years.
Oh.
And there I was like, okay, so graduate school, what do you do? And I was like, okay, how about Eastman? How about Miami? I had some hookups there, you know? And so I got accepted to Eastman in Miami, and they had a scholarship for me. And then I ran into my, like, well, what do you call that? Music methods teacher, you know, methods class. Yeah. She's an oboe teacher, and I'm trying to play oboe in her stupid class. I'm like, you know, I'm going to faint. She ran into me in the hallway one day, and she goes, did you decide on grad school yet? Then I told her, well, Eastman, Miami, or I can stay here to give me a full ride. And she goes, what about that dude that dropped by one time? He played steel drum. I think he's from LA. And I was like, oh yeah, I was like, wow, yeah, that guy was cool. There's this guy, Michael Carney, and he taught at Long Beach State. So I shot him an email and I said, hey, do you guys have a, you know, master's program? And he goes, oh, we do. It's only in classical performance. There's no jazz. There's nothing. We have no scholarship for you because the last person who had the assistantship did something weird. Like I guess he pissed off a lot of kids. And so they said, no more assistantships. He just told me, like, straight up. Huh. I was like, okay. So I didn't know where Long Beach was. I looked on a map and I go, that looks like maybe like 2 hours from LA. That's pretty close. You know, it's like, it's not. It's like, what, 20 minutes if no one's in your way, right?
Yeah.
It really is 2 hours in traffic. But I didn't know. So I was like, cool. So my dad bought me one of those bump tickets when they used to, the same, like your flight gets delayed, they give you a free flight, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it used to be a thing back then. You would just sell them to people. Like, it's a free flight on this airlines to anywhere.
Yeah.
So my dad bought one for $50, and I've made a fake ID. I made a fake library card under the name Marshall Brogan. How can you forget? And I played a role of Marshall Brogan, and I flew from Asheville to Long Beach Airport. So that's so weird. You can never do that now, right? Never.
No, you could never do that now.
I did it. I flew to LA in $50, man.
Now, was this just to check it out or to actually move and go to school?
To audition for grad school.
Okay.
So I auditioned for him, and then he was like,
classical.
Yeah. Classical, yeah.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, cool, whatever. Yeah, you can play. Okay. Let's go to a club. What do you think? Sure. So the first band I ever saw was Brandon Fields with Tommy Breckline and Jimmy Earl on bass.
Okay.
I was like, that's my introduction to LA. Yeah, I was like, that's my introduction to LA. I was like, shit, that's really good. And then next night it was Cecilia Noel at the Potato, you know, with Tristan Bowden and her crazy band, you know, with her salsa, you know, rock thing. And I was like, oh shit, these guys are really good. And then the night after that, I forgot who it was. It was Carlos Vega with Charisma with Garfield and those guys.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, it's the first time I ever saw Carlos up close. I saw him with James Taylor. And I was like, okay, I got to move to LA. End of story. The GRP guys are here. You know, Holdsworth is there. All my heroes at that time were in LA. Pat Gucci is here. He's like, So I moved here and then went to grad school at Long Beach for a master's. Kind of sped through that program in 2 years. The the second year I never had a lesson. This is a trade secret I'm just now telling people, but I never had a lesson because Michael Carney had a steel drum band that I played drums in. My lessons were on Fridays, and we always had a gig on Friday. So your lesson is jump in the car, we got a gig. I was like, cool, man. So yeah, it was good. It was a good time. And it was interesting to show up to LA hitting the ground running with gigs. There were a lot of gigs and a lot of opportunity.
What year was that?
1990.
Okay.
It was a lot of opportunity. It was fantastic and very fortunate. It was like also now in retrospect weird to be here and not worry about rent. Because I think about musicians maybe even 10 years later who just moved to town. It's always like, I got to get a day gig or I got to teach a bunch of students or something. And for me, it was like I showed up, I'm just playing all the time. And looking back now, I didn't have to teach, didn't have to do anything. I was like pretty lucky, pretty fortunate. So I did the master's. Yeah, and then I moved to Whittier for a couple of years because my best friend Dave Beery, his mom lived in Whittier, and she was going to rent rooms, and I said, how much? And she's like, $225 a month. I was like, I'm moving to Whittier. So I moved there.
Cheap, man.
So cheap. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere, man.
Whittier's out there.
It's basically like La Habra. So Beach Boulevard and Leffingwell. If you know where that is, it's 20 minutes to any freeway.
Yeah.
So I moved there and I practiced my butt off for a couple of years. Because when I got out of graduate school and really immersion into LA culture, I looking around at the people playing here and I was like, okay, my level is all right. But to compete with these guys, to get a gig with Carlos Vegas playing or something is like, come on, man. School has ruined you. School has ruined you. You're classical. I mean, I always played drums first and the classical stuff I put up with. But if you're in school, you should take it seriously. So I took it seriously, and where I can read pretty well and do stuff, 20th century music. And but I felt like I always had this creative identity that was there. But the voice, when you're back in that era, this is not happening now. Back in that era, you were browbeaten to get your own voice together. If you remember, it was like, you need your own thing. Yeah, you can copy people for a while, but if you're a clone, if you are an Elva Jones clone, or you're a Vinnie Colaiuta clone, ooh. And so when I moved to LA, I realized the fast track to gigs were people who were clones. And I was like, I'm resistant. No. And so I saw that when the fusion thing was out of control, I was like, there were so many clones of those guys who were my heroes. I was like, I got to stop. So I did a self-agreement that I was just going to dive into purely acoustic music for a while, whatever that is, ECM music and straight ahead jazz. At that time, Jeff Hamilton was my mentor. And he basically said, like, I wanted to go him to learn brushes. And he goes, cool, kid, you need to work on your sticks. We'll do that first, and then we'll do the brushes. And I said, okay. And the stuff that he showed me, I was like, not ready for. I was ready to accept the information, but educationally, it was eye-opening for me to another aspect. And I'm sure my lessons with him were painful. It was like, but I know the other class of those years who were the other students, and we all learned. Paul Johnson, who teaches in Orange County with the Strutters, he was the other student, and Dean Koba. Mm-hmm. We're the three kids that studied with him. And I think those guys were more traditional jazz players and they're really good. And I'm a mixed salad of stuff. And so, but I took what Jeff said very seriously, and I learned that stuff. And like one assignment, he goes, who do you want to play with? And I said, I named some people. And one of them was Monty Alexander. And he goes, go to Tower Records, buy every Monty Alexander record, by next week. Show me what you got. And I was like, shit. Okay. So I bought it and I made cheat sheets for everything, and I quickly learned as much as I could, you know. And the next lesson, it was kind of like we forgot about that. And he goes, "Are you ready for the gig?" You know, it's like, if I had to go in and the gig right now, I could probably get by. And it's really weird. In that lesson, Bonnie Alexander called him. Just rang him up on the phone. And he's like, "Yeah, I got this kid here who likes your music, and he transcribed all your stuff, and he plays some steel drum and whatnot." And Bonnie was like, "That's cool, man. So are you going to make this festival or not?" It was like, bye. It scared the crap out of me, man. And I was terrified, you know. And then it made me realize really quickly, like, are you really ready? Or are you just cheat sheet ready? Could you show up and own that gig? And I go, man, I would be standing on the history of jazz. I would be standing on, if I play with Ray Brown, am I ready for that? Really? No. You got to be honest, you know. Am my brushes as good as Jeff Hamilton, egg fig pen? No. So get your shit together. So I was in Whittier just practicing like this, just, you know, and learning stuff and trying to absorb more of identity, the identity crisis. Who are you and whatnot. So I wound up making this. Let's see. So after that, a couple of years, I moved to Torrance. My first marriage happened, and we lived in Torrance. And I built a studio. And that's when I really suffered with the identity thing. The suffering, I don't mean like, you know, stayed up late at night. I mean, I worked it out.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what did Max Roach have to do? What did that guy do to get into his identity? Because he's one of my heroes, Max, you know. And I was like, well, he played with Charlie Parker. He played with Charlie Parker. I said, get some Charlie Parker and then transcribe it on the drums, phrasing wise and note wise, exactly how it goes. And it's like to play something, you know, to even a small phrase like put that into like that, you just go, well, that's not snare drum, bass drum, tom. That's more gong 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 on drums. It's not the phrasing, right? Yeah. So you have to mute the drums like the Latin drummers do. If you mute it, go and then open it. I go, that's really it. But jazz drummers didn't do that. You see? So it's personality. It's like, what do you think of an artist? I go, well, go to the source. Go to Bird, right? Go to Miles. Learn from them. Go to Wayne Shorter. Learn from them and do your own interpretation. Don't learn copycat drummers. Don't copycat shortcut, right? Yeah. You got to suffer. So I just sat and suffered for a couple of years and felt like I made a dent. Yeah. You know, and since then it's just been more like music challenge accepted, and just keep pushing forward. But with that era, I did my first record with Larry Koonse, and I did a record with this guy Boogsie Sharpe, who was like crazy steel drummer, and I almost had my Caribbean stuff together. Almost. It was a fantastic time of growth, you know.
Cool. Wow, that's quite a lot. I mean, seems like several lifetimes.
I know.
Really a lot.
Then I moved up to LA where I currently live, and that's a whole nother, you know, huge chapter. It's been 22 years here.
Ron Levy is saying that's incredibly good advice. Yeah, it is. It's really, I know. It's really good.
Go to the source, man.
Yeah. By the way, Ev from Seattle, Larry,
Ev,
buddy.
what's up, man?
Great to see you and hear you again, even in this format. If you see Snoop Dogg again, give him my regards. And Dale Boatman is here.
All right. Yeah, cool.
So Dan Davila, he listed a project with Dimitris
Wahlis, yes, it's Jimmy Malis. You know him as Jimmy Malis.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's called Wahid, and that was that's a long story.
Should we hear a little bit of it?
Maybe. I don't know if it translates on people's computers as much. That's more of a headphone experience.
Oh, okay.
But what it is Jimmy at certain point. This is maybe around. Let's see. Let's put a timestamp on it. Around, let's say 2005 or so, he wanted to get into playing oud more. And at that time, I was playing some, Middle Eastern music, and I had a history with that, but not like for real. And learning more, and so we kind of agreed to get together, and he would play oud, and I'd play frame drum. We're gonna work it out. So I'd go to his apartment in Hollywood, and we just jam, And so then we were like, kind of got the level up a little bit better, and then we're like, let's involve some other people. So we tried like violin and bass and saxophone and whatnot, and it was always too much because you find people in who are cross genre. The cross genre is very difficult. So like you'd find Middle Eastern people, but they couldn't play jazz, and then you find jazz people, and then the Middle Eastern is like, I'm only going to play the harmonic minor scale. Like, that's not it. It's not it. So we would eventually wind up just as a duo, because I wound up making a frame drum setup that's 7 oversized frame drums, so I can play the bass and the percussion at the same time. So like I'm the bass player and the percussionist, and then he plays oud on top. And it's completely, third lifetime of stuff. I look at like my trajectory has always been like drum set, and then the classical thing was parallel for a while, but it's always been, my heart's been drum set since I was 6. Then I went to undergraduate school at App State. They had a steel band, so I started steel drums there in '87. I go, okay, that's cool, and that kind of eventually replaced the classical as the years went by. Maybe by 1995, no more classical.
Yeah.
Only steel drum set. And then steel drum fought me for first place for a long time because the demand was high. Then I was like, man, I don't want to wind up being that guy. I want to be the session guy on steel drum, because I could read and play. And so I got some good sessions and good money. But I was like, do I want to spend all day in the studio reading poorly written Caribbean music? Right? Hollywood. Yeah. Like, no. I want to play some jazz. I'm sorry. I want to be poor and play some jazz. So finally, I fought steel drum back down to second place, and then that's when frame drum came in, and that's the third of the whole. I mean, I play other stuff too, but it's not like, really spending the time. So what's funny about the frame drum stuff? I'll show you. This will be an easy translation. So, like, this is a Egyptian or Middle Eastern tambourine called Riq, R-I-Q, right?
I'm sorry. I need a little explanation. I don't know if I understand the term frame drum. Is that a frame drum right there?
Yes. Okay. A frame drum is any drum whose circumference is larger than the body.
Okay. All right.
So the shell here is very thin. Circumference is high, right? So the family of frame drums is huge. And it goes to like the Persian daf, which is a woman's instrument, not but played by males. It goes to like this is found in Syria, Egypt, Turkey, Greece, all over the place, right? Yeah, and then in Morocco they have a thing called tar, which is like a frame drum with a gut string. It's kind of sounds like a snare drum. So they're all over the place, and there are guys who are more experts than I am about it, but I kind of adopted a way of playing this, again, my own way, because I can cross genre. It's fine, but it's like the tones are normally like, it's called doom, which is open, and then you have ka, which is like closed, right, and then tek, which is like high tone, right? So kind of thing. With this one, you also have these, which are called zils, Z-I-L-S. Root of Zildjian, Z-I-L.
Yeah. Okay.
Symbol. So this is called zil. And you play the same embellishments here, like, so. Right? Makes sense. If you're going, same thing. Right? So with Wahid, I go, that's cool. But I'm playing bass with this hand, basically. So with this hand, I had to learn to do all these.
Sorry, hold on. Do you have your original sound on or off on the computer?
I'm on my phone.
Oh, okay. Maybe you might have to get a little further away with the instrument so that we can, because it plays the first few things and then it goes away. So.
Oh, okay. The compression's going crazy.
Yeah. The compression. That's the word.
Yeah, but you hear this, right?
Heard the beginning, and then it cuts out.
Oh, crazy. Okay, no problem.
You might have to just get further from the phone.
Let's try. Okay, I'll just play a little bit from back here. Better?
Not really.
Okay, you just won't accept it. That's fine.
It's in the beginning. The first few notes are live, and then it cuts out.
It's checking for piracy.
Yeah, damn it all.
Okay, this is a really funny thing, but okay, those 5 so far covers that I have on Steel Drum that I posted.
Yeah.
I was waiting to see if they get flagged because they're all covers, but it's really for educational thing, you know, and people to just, here's some songs, you know, and here's what I did with it, and it's really no big deal. Like you don't need to count odd time. So, but normally if I post something even on Facebook, right? If I play a song that's familiar, they'll flag me immediately. They haven't flagged those yet because I guess if you play something in odd time, it doesn't show up. The algorithm doesn't show up. It's like, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, you could play any cover tune that's famous in odd time and they'd probably like never notice.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what? It's been 2 hours.
Yeah. I should probably practice.
You know, it's been very, very enjoyable. It's been a great conversation. I love hearing what you have to say. A lot of people on board who were interested as well. You know,
Cool.
Should
Can
we
I tell you what my practice routine is before I leave?
Absolutely.
You're gonna laugh. Okay, so my COVID thing is like, okay, first of all, practice all like 4/4 simple phrasing, right? I like really like pocket, like the Carlos Vega thing, just precision playing, not boring with feel. So the main thing to feel is I'm trying to get the body to do you watch the really good hip hop drummers and gospel drummers? They're always like talking about rock to the left, rock to the right. So you're playing, it's like, okay. So I tried to learn these grooves, like which way can you move with your body and play every permutation on that groove? Because usually there's something weird with the permutation. You gotta like lean over to play a thing. And I finally figured it out, which is quarter note, your head goes back first. You be to the right or the left. But if you watch Elvin or Vinny Colaiuta, or you watch the gospel drummers, most of the time they're not head banging, right? And I grew up in the head banging era, and you're thinking like this.
Yeah.
And that's an off balance problem.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm deprogrammed the off balance. So anyway.
Wow.
My practice routine in COVID since maybe March is I get up and I play at least an hour, the first hour, with music that I'm resistant to. I'll get up and I'll practice to Cardi B. I'll practice to Dre.
Huh.
Right? Or Kendrick Lamar or something, you know. That's current, like crazy hip hop, gospel, whatever, not pop, not something that's drummy.
Yeah.
And it's because that music is in the culture now, and it's got the forefront. It's got the lead, like Kendrick, for example.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I not a huge Kendrick fan. As some people are like that, he's the greatest thing that's ever happened. But I appreciate him, and I can tell you why I prefer like D'Angelo over him.
Yeah.
No problem. I can break it down for you. But the point is, like, he's a force. He's in right now.
Yeah.
So I go, okay, freaking practice to his records. Do it. Don't sound like a dude that has ignored the last 40 years of history. Don't. And I am learning so much. It's not even funny.
Huh. Cool.
Because I ran myself through the ringer in that in the mid 2000s of like, get with the roots, see what Questlove is doing, learn that stuff. It's very simple drumming. You could write it out, no problem. But it's a feel thing, and it's a timing and a right. So I haven't really done the brush up since then, and I'm like now going through all the stuff that everyone's citing as an influence, and I'm like, okay, I see what's cool about it now. The resistance to stay current is huge in a jazz person. Like, you learn your stuff and you're really good at it. You want to stay there, and you want to just like, that's my career, right? And I'm still like, man, to fight that urge is difficult. So I'm fighting it now by playing arguably simpler music. But the learning and deprogramming is pretty huge. So I would encourage everyone to listen to everything. And if you don't like something, listen to enough of that genre to know why you don't like it. Because I changed my mind on Kendrick Lamar. He's bad.
That's very interesting. I could take that advice myself, because that's what I feel like I know what I do well. And, I want to just get more secure, more solid in what I do well, but if I followed your advice, that would be interesting. I mean, because there's things I like. I mean, good music and bad music, right? There's things I like that are totally out of my wheelhouse, but can I sing them? That's another thing, and just to get comfortable with that and to let it absorb and flow through you. I think it's great. I think that's what artists should do. They should reflect what's going on.
You have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. You could live in a bubble and not deal with it. I could sound like a guy who's not listened to music in 50 years.
Yeah.
And just play some bebop licks, and that's a lot of people do that, and that's fine. I just feel like, man. Like, I remember listening back to something that a student brought to me that I played. So I think it was something with Koonse or something.
Yeah.
And he goes, what's that thing right there? And I showed him, and I go, man, I didn't realize it till now. I got that from Stuart Copeland. That's a Stuart Copeland lick that I put in jazz. I'm like, that's messed up, man. But you're expanding your vocabulary, right? So It's good vocabulary seeking to like stay with current and just pick some things from it that you like, Yeah. Yep. Well, man, thank you for having me on. It was really fun.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks. And you can see, you can look back and see everybody's comments and stuff. I just wanted to tell people that it took me a little while to realize, hey, on my days off, I could post the archives. So I've been doing that. So Thursday through Sunday, I post archives, and having Cathy Cousins and Anthony Wilson and Rosanna Eckert and Sarah Oshlag and Dan Shepard this week. And then next week for the live is Billy Hulting on Monday. And a singer, Marianne Sullivan, on Tuesday. And Wednesday, Armando Campion, who's you're a friend of mine, bass player, singer from LA. And so on. It just keeps going on and on and on. I keep moving the end date out, because I don't even know if I'll end. It's really fun. Good. I like it.
It's good to document what's going on in the history of LA. It's hugely undocumented. So
well, I have to admit I'm going all over the world, but I do use a lot of LA people because I know a lot of LA people, you know.
Yeah.
And
There's frightening amount of talent here. Frightening.
yeah, totally, I agree.
Yeah.
I also do want to mention, because I can, that in 8 more days I'm releasing my next single. And I have a guest artist, Paul Jost, who's a great, amazing artist and singer and drummer, by the way. He's from New Jersey. And I just wanted to say that. 8 more days and my single's released. So it's just kind of, you know, getting some,
Right.
you know.
Yep. Got to do it.
Chris Wabich,
Cathy Garcia.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dig you, man.
Appreciate it. See you soon in person, I hope.
Okay, thanks everybody. See you soon. Bye.